Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marshall here at Stony Lane. I have a really awesome book for you today. This is a story that is sort of a metaphor. Have you ever heard that word? Have you ever heard of a metaphor? So, a metaphor is when a writer puts something into a story or other piece of writing that's meant to remind you of something big and important in your life. Okay? And sometimes they put that in there with an object or a symbol, and sometimes the entire piece of writing is one big metaphor or reminder of something very important in your life. Usually, it's like a big lesson. Okay. And that's what this book is. Are you ready? So it's called How to Solve a Problem: The Rise and Falls of a Rock Climbing Champion. It's written by Ashima Shiraishi. It's actually a true story. Okay. And I hope you enjoy it. Look at this beautiful end paper. She's a rock climber. And these are all different positions that she takes in order to climb her rock. The story actually starts with a letter that's written to you and me by another writer named Christopher Myers. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. It says, Dear reader, the first time I met Ashima Shiraishi, the writer of this book, we talked about hip hop, books, and dessert. She's a teenager and curious about all the things that teenagers are curious about. For a moment, one could almost forget that she is one of the best in the world at what she does. At the end of our meeting, I ask what she's doing next. She says she will go practice, by which she means that she will face a wall for 4 hours. Wow. She will climb it again and again. She will work on holds and techniques. She will make mistakes and then make them again until she learns how to do it better. Wow. Can you imagine that? Being the best in the world is not something we are born into. Ashima's parents aren't climbers, they're artists, New Yorkers. Her mom loves to sew and still makes the pants that Ashima climbs in. Her father was a dancer, the kind of guy who takes his young daughter to Central Park and lets her climb the rocks because it's fun, not knowing that there's a champion inside of her. Being the best in the world is made of countless hours in the gym. It's made of mistakes and falls. It's the discipline and care and the time it takes to go back to that wall and try again. The ability to try again after failing, that is what it takes to be great. Did you hear that? I'm going to read that sentence one more time. The ability to try again after failing, that is what it takes to be great. That might be Ashima's greatest superpower. I imagine every child might like to be the best in the world at something, and I know if of no better guide than this teenager who likes hip hop, books, and dessert, who, after school, will go to a wall in Queens or Brooklyn and keep working on that wall, that problem, as a climber would say, until she has solved it. So that tells us a little bit about this writer. It tells us a little bit about the story. Now let's enjoy the story. I am Ashima. What I do is climb. What I do is solve problems, which is to say, I make them mine. We climbers call our boulders problems. We also call our problems problems, and to solve them both is sort of the same. Once I had a problem, and it stretched into the sky. It was tremendously endless. Look at that picture. It was bigger than thinking. It was as huge as the air or the night or the planet. It was a problem bigger than any I had ever seen. and I have seen plenty. There were twists and turns. There were places that looked as slick as glass. One part was arched, like a question mark. Another part stuck out like my father's elbow in a photo I had seen of him dancing. And another was shaped like the bolts of fabric stacked in my mother's sewing room. There were many parts, and none of them looked easy. I sighed, and I clapped my hands full of chalk, which is what I do before I solve a problem. I held this problem in my head. I mapped out every step, each place I would put each place I would put my hand, and then I began to climb. Look at that. Can we do that with one of your problems? Dug my toe into the dot of the question mark. Jammed my fingertips into the bend of my father's dancing elbow. Kicked my leg over my mother's fabrics. And then, for a moment, the world slipped out from under me. I was climbing on nothing but air. The ground beneath me rushed up and pressed into my back like the hand of a giant named Gravity. There's a whole lot of metaphors in this book, aren't there? So I dusted myself off. Dad asked how I was feeling. He passed me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and for a while, we just sat there. Then, when I was ready, I looked at the problem again with the new information the fall had given me. Do you hear that? With the new information the fall had given her. She was learning from falling. She was learning from her mistake. Hmm. Each fall is a message, a hint, an idea, a new way to move from over there to over here. And so I started, and so I fell, and so I climbed again, listening to what the fall had told me. That can feel hard, right? It can feel hard to move on when you've made a mistake, especially a big mistake that hurts you like that, right? The problem that was endless, which I broke into little pieces, the problem that gave me hints with each fall. And surely and quickly, I climbed the wall. I dug my fingers there and here and stretched my arms like ropes. I threw my body through the air and caught myself in all the ways I had imagined, a bright path of thinking. And there at the top of the problem, I looked down. Look at that. I looked down at the bolts of fabric, the dot of the question mark, the bend of the elbow, and I waved hello at the memory of how hard the problem was. And looked for one problem more. that's the end. Take a look. Here's a timeline of Ashima's ascent, of how she got there. It says that when she was two, it says she was born April 3rd, 2001, and it tells you that when she was six, she began climbing, and then it goes on and it tells you more and more of the things that she did, the different places that she climbed, and how she practiced and got better and better. And she climbed in places in North America and in Asia and in South Africa. And when she was 14, it says Ashima becomes the first woman to climb the V15 boulder problem horizon in Mount Hiei, Japan. She is the second person ever to solve this problem to climb that mountain. Can you believe that? 14 years old and she's doing that. It says when she was 15, it says Ashima sweeps the IFSC Youth World Championships for her third year running and also places first in the SCS Nationals. It says what comes next. The sky's the limit. And that's the end. Isn't that a great book? Isn't that a great book? It kind of makes you think about all the things that you maybe can't do yet, but you'll get there. If you learn from the falls and you listen to them, you'll get there. I'll see you next time.